Welcome to the Mike and Doug Show. Today I'm really excited because I think that Mr. McKibben, we lovingly call Mike, might have let the miners come out for a break. I think they've been down there for about 3 months with not being able to come up to see their family or to eat. And you will, when you see what he and the miners have produced, it will blow your mind. This is the most impressive assault against the Swiss government and against the World Economic Forum that I have ever seen. And especially the timeline that you did for Klaus Schwab in this would be considered of the highest order for anyone doing genealogical studies. I mean, there's more material on that about Klaus than Klaus knows. And I have never liked Klaus. People look at the World Economic Forum, they get a bad feeling, but that's the tip of the iceberg. Today, we're going to hear about the entire iceberg. So thanks for being on the show, Mike. How are you doing anyway?
Hey, it's really good to talk to you and glad you're back in the saddle.
Well, I've been on vacation for so long, I just decided I have to do something now. So when you sent this new report, it's staggering. But the discussions beforehand really led us into some amazing, crazy speculation based upon previous experience. And guess what? All that speculation turned out to be true, whether it be the nuclear connection, the pharmaceutical connection, the vaccine experiments done in Ravensburg through the Schwab family being Nazis, total Nazi collaborators. But I think that you and the miners have outdone yourself. So thank you so much. Really, the research is, I can't believe it continues on and continues to reveal deeper layers of what people think are conspiracies, when if you look into them and find the evidence, they're not conspiracies at all. So tell us about Klaus, Mike.
Well, you remember when we first heard the name Pirbright, the Pirbright Institute, and then we learned that there's a place called Pirbright, and then we discovered Baron Henry de Worms, and then that led into a whole discovery of the early pharmaceutical element of the Pilgrim Society. And it all started with looking at a location, which was Pirbright. And in the case of Klaus Schwab, all roads are leading back to a beautiful little town called Ravensburg in southern Germany, near the border with Liechtenstein and Switzerland. And as it's turning out, peeling away the layers of this onion, Ravensburg has and continues to play a major role in what is going on now with this Great Reset. And I really do thank our researchers from all over the world who have been digging this up and putting this picture together, a picture that has been hidden. And that's another key piece of Klaus's resume. There's a lot out there about him, but what we've discovered that it's all propaganda. What do they say about your resume? You only tell the good things. And the missing pieces are shouting at us to be known so that we can realize what a total fraud this Great Reset, fourth industrial revolution is.
I mean, just the detail that he got his master's degree from Harvard, where he hung out with and was brainwashed thoroughly by Henry Kissinger and who was the other one?
John Galbraith.
Galbraith, yes. This is just, you find the little missing pieces and they tell you everything. And here we now find just the most blatant aggrandizement of a single family, represented by, of course, Klaus Schwab, who supposedly is the leader and the brains behind the World Economic Forum. You just used the word reset. Klaus Schwab's reset is to put all robotics, nuclear, any type of energy, pharmaceutical, data management, any type of industry that's out there will simply go to the company that he and his father and his family before him, Escher Weiss, and then he married into the Stoll family that controls Sulzer, which is just as big as Escher Weiss. Now, we don't know these companies in America, but in Ravensburg, Germany, they were the industrialized aspect of the Nazi regime. And so the Schwab family was, in fact, complete collaborators. And they wanted to build a railroad to Switzerland because of the absolute swindling going on in Switzerland under the guise of neutrality. But it was really simply banks. It's about economics. The excuse of being a confederacy so that your cantons can do what they want has allowed Swiss neutrality to remain basically mob rule or a democracy. So when they were asked, do you want to join the war? Oh, no, we don't want to join the war. We want to hide and be collaborators with the Nazis, take gold from everywhere in the world and supposedly neutrally hold it in our country for them. We'll even take the stolen gold of the Nazis and hold it. And then later we will control it through the Bank for International Settlements. Now, why do I go into all of this? Because Klaus Schwab was not just a German. He became totally Swiss as can be, went into the military, went into the government. And when you talk about the first founding in 1971 of his organization, which became the World Economic Forum, he's a patsy. He's another one of these people that when you look at his biography, which is astounding with the research you presented, when you look at it, you just go, oh no, another groomed globalist who is working in many cases for the Black monarchy and certainly bowing to the current monarchy, who is the Queen of England. And why? The Bank for International Settlement was founded by two banks, the Bank of England and the largest bank of Germany. So, and then 10 other countries got in on it, and then 60 other central banks got in on it, and then it became the biggest swindling, fraudulent activity that anyone could even imagine.
Well, let's talk about when that started. That started as a result of the Marshall Plan. So these families, they took over the Marshall Plan and dictated the terms. And a group of corporations and banks decided that they were going to use that stolen gold from Japan and Germany to back these companies. And that's clearly what's happened. Let me throw in a couple of key points here, because one of the things we've said before is that we can often tell as much about a person by what they don't talk about in their biography as what they do talk about. But let me just go through a few things that in his massive, voluminous PR pieces called his biographies, he conveniently leaves out. He did talk about Escher Weiss and that he went to work for Escher Weiss. There's a Swiss version and a German version, and essentially it's the same company. One of the things that he conveniently doesn't talk about is that in 1929, Escher Weiss began working with the German government to create heavy water, which is a key element in nuclear capabilities. His dad's company, in other words, he grew up into this nuclear program that was run out of his dad's company. And that's the first place he worked and pretty much the only place he worked. Escher Weiss was nominated to be a National Socialist model company by Adolf Hitler. Now that's important because that shows you the prominence of his family and this company, Escher Weiss, in the politics of Germany. That kind of designation and attention from Hitler, his dad was doing important things. Ravensburg happens to be the place where the Germans first practiced eugenics in 1933. In the Holocaust Museum, there are documents proving that. And then we have other documents that emerged out of the Swiss National Press Agency that Escher Weiss exploited slave labor and Allied POWs in Ravensburg during the war. Jewish, Polish, Russian prisoners of war in his company. So that was the company that Klaus grew up into. The Escher Weiss company was the largest employer in Ravensburg at the time and was also a hub for the Allies in moving the stolen Nazi gold out of Germany and into Switzerland and eventually into the Bank for International Settlements. Sulzer Escher Weiss. There was a time when Escher Weiss was bought, and this was actually, Klaus helped facilitate this in 68, 69, 70, where they were bought by a Swiss company called Sulzer. And Sulzer was another engineering company like Escher Weiss that was involved in the nuclear enrichment technology that Escher Weiss was using up in Norway. And lo and behold, we discover that after this merger of the two companies that Klaus facilitated and then immediately started the World Economic Forum, that company, Sulzer Escher Weiss, was supplying nuclear enrichment and bomb-making capabilities to apartheid South Africa.
They were at the cutting edge of German technology and still are at the cutting edge of technology. And when you said that, then we said, well, okay, then their turbine engines had to be part of those nuclear plants as well as the plants that did enrichment for uranium. Look into it, and you're going to find out that they have top secret nuclear clearance because
Yes.
you have to work in one of those plants, and certainly to do the engineering for it or to create the turbines or whatever. So I mentioned, well, then, they know the top secret that has been going on since the 60s, that all nuclear power plants actually could be completely eradicated and replaced with the startup engine that they use in many, many, many nuclear power plants, whether it be on land or sea, whether it be in aircraft carriers or submarines. So it's called a magnetohydrodynamic generator. So what did you do in your miners? You went and found
The
that.
patent that they hold, Esther Weiss holds for that technology in the U.S. government.
So there you go. From the beginning, Swiss swindlers working out of Switzerland under neutrality were working both sides of the war.
Yep.
They had sold out to both sides. And then what did they do? In a while, we'll get into the gold. They were holding the gold, they were manipulating the gold, and they were making all of the United Nations globalist organizations come to Switzerland because it's the only place that people are honest and good and true. And they're neutral. They've never been in wars and so on and so forth. All lies.